Hey guys, I have NPC coming on. I have to do a Zoom meeting with him because we couldn't get Discord to work, even though I figured out the volume on Zoom. On Discord, but and that's how it goes. Hopefully you can hear me. Turned on my mic. Remember to do that. And I got a quick raffle to draw, and we're going to have a subject of primarily the new Temple of Solomon. And can you hear me? Oh, let me unmute you.
I can hear you.
There you are. Excellent. So let's
say.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say a sentence.
All right. Yeah, you were so much louder on Discord, but I'm going to see if I can do that volume thing with Zoom. Oh, it's turned all the way up. Good.
It's still making like a noise, but I'm hearing the word more. Instead of like it taking the word off entirely, I'm hearing the word a little bit more now.
Well, just make sure you speak into your microphone and all that jazz, and should be good to go. Everything should be fine.
We should try to do a sound check sometime just to see what our settings are best for.
Let's see. I can turn you up this way. Now talk.
Hello.
Oh gosh, that made a difference. Woo-wee. Okay.
You're not hearing things.
Oh god. Yeah, that made a huge difference. That made a big difference. Okay. I think we're good. Okay, I want to mention something to everybody, that we are going to be talking about the Temple of Solomon primarily, and maybe some other stuff like the Black Cube a little bit. But because NPC has such a vast knowledge of Freemasonry, we thought if you had questions, we want to do a Q&A. Now, I'm not asking for a handout, but you can tell me I'm asking for a handout if you want to. But if it gets to be more people or faster moving, even if it's not moving that fast, sometimes with the chat, it's really hard for me to listen, talk, and read the chat at the same time. So if anyone really wants a question answered, if you don't mind trying to super chat, we can see that better. But if it's going slow, I can see things, and it's not a big deal. And it's also hard to tell if if we're being asked. So you can always at NPC the question or at me. And it's not required with the super chat, like I said, and it's not even required even if it gets busy. But if it got kind of busy and the chat was moving with several questions, it'd be helpful to be able to go through the super chats more easily. I think they can be as little as $1.99, but that's your discretion. Use it how you will. It does help the channel, but you know, we just want to be able to get these good questions to NPC. He knows a lot about Freemasonry, can answer a lot of questions. It's been just an area of specialty that he likes to know a lot about. So with that being said, he's here in the house. I think we got everything figured out. We thought we had it figured out, and so that's why we came on, and you guys had to hear us chit-chatting about it. But all's well. I want to congratulate Philip, who's coming on board with 7K medals as a brand new membership, getting a new membership starting tonight. So congratulations to him. And I got one raffle to do really quick on a bar, and I'll put another one up after this video's over. I just have to decide which, because I have a lot of fun stuff, but sometimes it's hard for me to determine what people like. And I've asked you guys to let me know what you want to see, but I don't get a lot of input. So anyway, if you have any time during the talk, if you want to ask a question on Freemasonry, just do it anytime while we're chit-chatting, and we'll try to get to it. At least try to at one of us or super chat, and we'll be able to read it very easily that way. All right, so good luck to these 10 people on the 1 ounce Sunshine Mint Bar. Woo! Drum roll. Meow, 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 meow. Number 10! That's David. He'll be excited. Hopefully he sees us. If not, I hope he sees us, because he does through the Cash App, which it doesn't give me an email. So David, you're the winner. I'll make a post about it too. I need to start congratulating my winners a little bit more. With that, I'm going to let NPC kind of take the beginning of this. And first though, NPC, there's a question that's how far above 33 degrees is there? And at that point, is it Illuminati? And go.
Well, this is actually a really good question, because I'm actually a third degree Freemason. So what that means is they're governed by the charter of the Blue Lodge. And so what you'll find is that beyond third degree, which at that point you are a full Mason, so to speak, but you can take two alternate branches afterwards, one being the York Rite, the other being the Scottish Rite. And Scottish Rite branch is the one containing the 33rd degree. The York Rite, by contrast, has various other degrees. And mind you that you can actually get each of these degrees conferred upon you with an entirely separate ritual. Some of them are just reading out of a book. Some of them are actually performed. For instance, the Rosicrucians, or some of the others like Templars, etc. You'll find a lot of that stuff on the York Rite side.
Real quick, I have to say I got this wrong, and I'm sorry to interrupt. It's so rude of me. But it's not David. It's Light of Jesus, that one. Just got to make that clear. I'm sorry, David. You weren't number 10. It's Light of Jesus. I'm correcting myself. Okay, go ahead.
Well, anyway, so the 33rd degree, however, well, that and the 32nd are the more popular ones that are known by folks. But you can be both, actually. Now, I chose not to do either, simply because, well, they cost a lot of dues. And furthermore, it was because of that association with the Illuminati, like you're suggesting, that caused me to be a little more shy of it. And I know people that are involved with it higher, and people that were, pretty much what got me involved with it to begin with. I just chose not to go into it because it was soon after that you start to meet the Luciferian and Satanist types who are in those higher degrees. So yeah, but I honestly don't think most people would see that. It's just because the people I was associating with from the very beginning happened to be those people. And it wasn't apparent at first, but I don't think most of the people involved are even aware of what's going on with that. And that's not to say that everybody involved, even in the lodge as far as officers, are evil, because you have to believe in a God, first of all. Now, it doesn't say which God. That's very interesting. And I wanted to make this point very clear because I do a lot of research with the Anunnaki and the Sumerians and stuff like that. And it's, from what I can tell, Inky is some type of engineer or scientist type archetype or God. So I think that the Freemasons may be worshiping him. But it's possible. They also say the supreme architect of the universe. So they could very well be referring to God. But I don't know. So anyway, they don't name the God. That's something that people should be well aware of. But you have to believe in God. So. Oh, okay. So, in this picture that she's got up on the screen right here on the right, I think you're going to see the York Rite degrees. And then I think on the left, you're going to see the continuity there from the first all the way up to the 33rd, perhaps. I can't see it as clearly on my screen, perhaps.
Well, this is really hard to see.
And I think at the bottom it has different organizations, maybe also.
Well, what's this?
Different other organizations.
Yeah, it does. So, but it kind of shows how they come together at the top. Hold on.
Yeah.
I can zoom in here a little bit.
But the 33rd degree stuff is when the Illuminati
that didn't work.
the Bavarian Illuminati kind of took root, and the rot really set in.
Okay, yeah, that's the 33rd, but this is the Elder of the Knights Templar. So you can see there's less steps on the York right side, but they look like they're bigger steps to get there. And then, yeah, these are organizations like the Order of the Eastern Star, the females, right? And Rainbow Girls. Looks like these might be the women's ones, perhaps. I'm not sure, but it's allied organizations down here. And yeah, here's some of the women things, some of it. Shriners.
Rainbow Girls are for the girls, and Order of Demolay are for the younger men. Eastern Star's female version. Now, here's an interesting thing about the Eastern Star. Their symbol is actually the upside down pentagram.
Yes.
Now, albeit they have different symbols in the tines of the star that have different things like tools and stuff. So, mind you, I don't know many of things about their rituals because I'm not a member, but their symbols is kind of interesting. Now, mind you as well that's two different types of stars. One's 5, one's 6.
They also have a Jesuit cross. The Good Inspector Inquisitor Commander cross and the Knight Kadash cross look very Jesuit, and then it's almost like a Jewish star, the Knight of St. Andrew. I mean, all these... This looks like the pedophile triangle. I mean, it isn't. It's a triangle and a triangle and a triangle, but it really looks like that one. Looks like Jewish stuff.
I'm going to increase the quality on my video so I can actually see what you're showing. Alright, I might be able to see it now. You mentioned the cross. Which one?
They're up here. There's two. Isn't that like the Jesuit? There's another name for it I can't think of. You'll see it in the Catholic churches.
That's a Maltese cross.
Yeah, Maltese. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Now, you want to know something I learned about that is that's actually the view of
Knights Templar.
Top down of a pyramid.
This compass?
Maltese cross.
Oh, Maltese crosses. Okay.
That's the square and compass. That's your compass for doing circumferences and arcs. And then the square there is for 90-degree angles. And see, the whole premise, it's quite beautiful, really, in how they explain these things. You're to use these, what they call the working tools, to true a stone. You are this rough stone, and you are to make yourself a perfect ashlar for a building not made with hands.
Right.
Now, they're not saying that you have to necessarily replace Jesus, but they don't mention Jesus either. So it's almost, I guess if people were going to criticize it and by saying it's blasphemous, they could say it's blasphemous by omission because it's, you don't have to believe in Christ or anything like that, you know what I mean? So it's almost the saying that like you achieve salvation through works kind of thing. So I could see why it would turn a lot of people off. And I'm not an active member, by the way.
Right.
But,
well, and the concern is, like you said, you started to meet some kind of sketchy people, and that's how it's only going to get more and more like that as you get to the top, because that's how it is at the top of secret societies.
And that's exactly what I share with folks. I forgot to preface everything. I actually... long ago, I think it's been about 10 years now, I prayed asking for wisdom, and I was led into this kind of thing with Freemason. And which is kind of interesting because I learned later that Solomon did the same thing. And of course, that's what it's all about, is the Solomon's Temple.
Well, let's lead into that then.
Yeah, so that's a great segue. So, folks may not really be aware of the fact, and of course, I'm sure I'm unpopular with some that listen, but because I talk about the Israel thing, and that's the thing. If you're younger than 70 years old, you're not going to remember time when Israel didn't exist, because it's been there for 70 years. But prior to that, it hadn't existed since it was destroyed in 70 AD and by the Romans. Now, here's what's interesting about that is the second temple was destroyed so utterly they didn't even know where it had been. And that's the thing still today. They still don't know where the temple was actually at. And they pray at the wall, is what they call it, the Wailing Wall. But there's a lot of speculation to suggest that that is, in fact, the remnants of a Roman fort.
Wouldn't that be funny? They're praying at the remnants of a Roman fort.
Well, think about it. Why would the temple be left standing? I mean, it would make more sense to think that a Roman fort would be standing rather than the temple, because they did, in fact, destroy all of it, like, entirely. Because I did a little bit of research on the siege of Jerusalem. They were so antagonized by the time they had actually broke the siege that the officers actually lost control of the men, and they just went crazy and killed everybody. The Romans actually circled the entire city with troops, so nobody got to escape. They burned, destroyed it. So, I'm of the opinion that they really don't know where it was, but after some excavations, they say that they found some indications that perhaps it was in the city of David, where the Gihon Spring is located. And this makes a lot of sense, because you need a spring to wash away the blood of all the sacrificial animals. Because if you think about all that blood, what are you going to do with that? So if they were trying to say that the third temple should be built on the Temple Mount, quote unquote, then what were we going to do with all this blood, right? Nowadays, you could say, oh, well, using water hose or something like that. It's got to think practically. And then, of course, this, introduces the whole entire notion of, well, if we put it on the Temple Mount, we have to, replace the Alaska Mosque, which isn't true, because there's enough room to do both, I think. But that they wouldn't want to do that. They'd want to, topple the one and build the other. When in fact, it wasn't built there to begin with. It was built in the city of David. So I just wanted to also mention that as we talk about this, because the third temple is kind of a controversial topic. In fact, I don't think it's ever really mentioned in the Bible that it's even to be built. So I think people that are watching for it as like prophecy watching type thing, really should be cautious about that, because it's not actually listed as a qualification, I guess. It does talk about the abomination and desolation, which people take to mean declaring oneself God, but I actually think it's when the sacrifices begin again, which they've started the sacrifices again in Jerusalem, at where they think the temple should be. So
yes, they have.
It does make sense that it could be there. Pardon?
They have started sacrifices again, and they're doing them in like New York City and other places too in the U.S.
Yes, but what should be noted about this is that they have not had the red heifers for generations, because they've been extinct. So mind you, it's a sacrificial animal to begin with, so they're killing them all. But even so, since they didn't have a nation or anything for years and years, that animal was no longer around. So they had to actually get that back through their alliance with India, who reveres cows, of course. Bovines are there. Receive bountiful blessings there. So they get the red heifer back now, and they can start these sacrifices again, which that's part of
it could be a DNA thing, right? Like it could be DNA modifying to get one, do you think?
Well, we should probably do a little bit of research to see what they actually did to achieve it. But my understanding is that they took a modern day cow they have now, and they somehow crossed it with something from way back, and it's like a hybrid or something like that.
It was
It's
even
not
then?
exactly what they had.
Oh, okay.
Pardon?
It wasn't
Yeah, I don't think.
a hybrid then, it is now.
I do believe it's not a pure strength, which that alone is bad enough. But the fact that they're sacrificing it anyway, spits in the face of the sacrificial lamb that was Jesus Christ. So that's part of the abomination of desolation, in my opinion. Now, we're talking about the third temple, and so far as what we're going to be getting into here later, there's already a third temple built. It's just not in Jerusalem. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about that here in a few minutes. You'll find one in Brazil, actually.
So
I don't want to get too far ahead of
the
you.
Sao Paulo, Brazil temple and then the Temple of Solomon, are those two different things? Or is it the same thing?
Yeah, see, this is the LDS church down there.
Okay.
There's a few temples. Now, this is not a church, that the Latter-day Saints temple. They have like 4 of them, I think. I could be mistaken. But that's one of them. And I just thought it was strange that one of them is in that same city. I mean, it could be anywhere, you know. But there was a few dates here on the page that I noticed I thought were interesting. If you want to scroll down, maybe.
Yep. On this page.
Yeah.
Am I down for, where do you want to see? These are references.
There's some dates there on the side. Yeah, January 17th is when they started.
Grab your fox and sit with me. Then you're gonna have my fox.
Groundbreaking, March 20th. The first day of Aries. I don't know, it's just a few dates that stood out to me on that page. There was some up there at the top too. But anyway,
October 30th.
This is the Mormon church.
Right.
And LDS folks. And what interests me about this is that when the book that I have, it's called the Pearl of Great Price or something like that. It's one of their supplementary texts that they have for their Bible. Somebody gave it to me and I was looking at it. So in that book, they actually have these inscriptions, the plates that they were given. And it says some parts of it are still not yet deciphered. But it depicts these ancient looking folks and Anu with his boat and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, whoa.
What does it have you thinking exactly?
Well, I don't know. I've not sat in one of their services, so I don't know like what their actual beliefs are. But I need to read their books a little bit.
We'd have to ask we'd have to ask Benz if he knows anything about that.
Yeah, I did actually ask him about it.
Oh, okay.
But the plate itself with the symbols and stuff on it seems to suggest.
I kind of remember talking about that. Yeah, I remember that picture.
Seems to suggest, like Anu. I'm like, wow. So anyway, going back to the root races then. So what did Anu do? Right? They were all in charge of cultivating humanity.
Can't find it.
And each of the Nephilim all had their own cities and stuff like that, and their own countries. And see, this is another thing that the Bible talks about, like in Ephesians, where there's principalities and such, where the demons actually still have kingdoms in the spirit realm with boundaries and such. Because at one time they did actually have kingdoms on earth. Hey, I think there it is.
Yeah.
Isn't that remarkable?
That's very
It's
Egyptian looking.
The second one there, yeah, that's the one. And see, I think the parts in the middle there, on the left and right, or maybe the top and the bottom, perhaps. But there's parts of it that are not deciphered yet. And it says that they will be in end of the age.
So real quick question on Masons that Matt has. Do Masons believe in the Trinity? Don't they usually have some kind of Trinity they believe in?
Well, that's an interesting question because I don't know. They don't call it that, but there is what they would call the three lights. To wit, I think they're the Holy Bible, square and compass. So by no means is the Holy Spirit God the Father, God the Son. So it's not the same, but there is a correspondence to the three, but you can draw that same correlation in other things.
A lot of secret society, or not even secret societies, a lot of these occult, secret, that's what cult means. A lot of these secret ones have a Trinity, like Shiva and all that. There's like three of them, and same with the Egyptian and a lot of these things. There's three of them, but they're usually three separate people. And I think, unfortunately, that's what the Catholic Church tends to not try to necessarily, because there's a lot of good priests, but there tends to be a separation as three separate people, and it confuses a lot of people, and they start to think of them like three separate people. So it kind of can ease you into these other things where there's trinities in those too, and then you go, well, there's a trinity in everything, so every religion must be good, so let's all unite all religions, they must all be correct. That's my thought.
I think it's strange that people, I think you use the word people, because the Holy Spirit, to me, I mean, in its name, it's even called a spirit, so it isn't clearly not a person, in my opinion. I think the Holy Spirit is like an incorporeal thing, like an entity. It's entirely separate, in my opinion. I think it's like a female aspect or something like that.
Well, that's really what Zen Garcia thinks too. And when you say female, it's talking about the feminine, just like how words have a feminine and a masculine, especially in like the Spanish, Italian, and French languages. It doesn't mean that it's a female with long flowing hair, right? It just means there's a feminine of the Holy Ghost.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you think, and if this would help to explain, when God created humans, He created man first. Then it says He created woman from man's rib. And so apparently there's the potential for both already there. You see what I mean? Sorry, I don't want to get off track. I was just saying.
Right, so we mentioned that. Okay, go back to this Wells Fargo thing you wanted to talk about. Wells Fargo gift supports entrepreneurial students?
Well, so you see a photo. Oh, you got the Masonic Trinity thing.
Yeah, but I don't anymore. It's Wells. You have a delay. What you're watching. I tried to make it as little as possible, but I've gone over to this Wells Fargo one now, and you said there's some
live in there. Yeah, so this fella here that won the award. I'm going to scroll down the page a little bit.
Daniel Ludman. No, that's not him.
No, it's further down. And
like I got to go a ways or no?
No, not too far.
It talks about it. Ludman was a board.
Here. I just wanted to read it. So
I just don't know who wins. I can't see who won it.
It's fine. I have it right here.
Great.
Robert E. Wilson III.
Oh, that's right. That's what you said.
He's the founding partner of Uranos Venture Partners, a new venture capital fund based in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And so this was another chip to add to the stack of the ever-growing pile of research I've been amassing that is leading back to Brazil.
Is it Uranos or Uranos?
Uranos.
With a
which
U.
is one of the forms for Saturnos.
Oh.
So, I believe, or Uranus, pretty sure that's correct, right?
I was trying to find something specific to that. Okay.
Well, I tried to find it, but it's
Google.
a very new company that he's just started. Okay. So you can can only really find it on one website.
It's not mentioned in this article, is it?
Well, it's in this article, but then it's in one other place where they have like their own website. And kind of talk about.
Oh, here it is. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Spelled like Ouroboros. O-U-R.
Yeah, but he was the consort of Gaia. So it was like Father Time, Mother Earth. But Father Time is actually Saturn. So I just think that the first thing that we point out is that this guy here is Uranus.
Yeah, and he wins us.
Sorry, not Saturn, it's Uranus.
His company is called Uranos.
The honor I get.
His company is called Uranos, but if you try to look up that company, I can't find anything on it. Interesting. Well, anyway,
yeah. So anyway, I wanted to point out that he had his company was named after a Titan. And they're into agriculture and things like that, which I found very interesting. But more
here
to
it
the
is.
point,
I found it.
The Wells Fargo thing was just a side note, and that they gave a grant out, and what they're basically trying to do is diversify entrepreneurial activities. And his team won one of these grants, so that's kind of where you start to hear about Uranus Venture Partners. But I would be interested as to know why they chose the name they did.
This is from 2010, so it's kind of weird that you can't find any information on it.
Yeah, I know, which makes me think, is it a shell company or...
Yeah, for
what's
sure.
really going on with it?
So let's talk about the Temple of Solomon. And there was a video you sent me. Do you want me to play this whole 1 minute?
Which one is it?
The Temple of Solomon, Sao Paulo, Brazil, with Rodrigo Sanchez Mao. This is a tourist video and has it must just be the building.
Yeah, you can play that, and then we can go over the wiki for the temple. It's got a little more information on it.
A lot of gold. It's supposed to be the Temple of Solomon. Is it supposed to look like what the Temple of Solomon would have looked like, you think?
Yeah, it's supposed to be everything to scale.
Giant doors. Giant doors. There's something to having giant doors that there probably used to be giants walking through them.
Well, yeah, exactly. Uranus. That's what I was trying to mention. Now, the one that was built, though, the second temple, shouldn't have had giants walk through. Or the first one, for that matter. In fact, it's one of the hallmarks of the God of the Hebrews that he ordered them to kill all of the other, the Nephilim. So a lot of folks like to fault the Bible for all the violence that's in it and stuff, but a lot of the times they were being ordered to kill other races. It was because they were
totally corrupt
not
and
really
disgusting.
human.
No, they weren't. And they were cannibals, and they were bad. Okay, so the Temple of Solomon.
Which was the entire reason for the flood to begin with, which... hold
on, I missed this video. At 2:20 or 22:25, you wanted to watch it? Something he says in there. Should we watch that?
Yeah, that's where they're interviewing.
All right, I'll play it.
A tech and science future, not just for real,
so
for Brazil.
This is that gentleman that's over Uranus Venture Capital, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
We'll play,
what he says that I want people to
really
pay attention
just been named finance minister of Brazil. Congratulations. And it's your first week in office. What would you do, hypothetically, what would be your first 2 or 3 steps that you would take to bootstrap some of these sectors, or what would you do?
I would do something radical. I mean, I would carve out the state of Rio to create an Israel inside the country of Brazil.
On, so I
have it
read what they're saying. So I'm really in there.
Really marshaled and structured in a way that was apart from the rest of the country. We have to, recognize the fact that the country itself is stagnated largely because
We're
of
recognizing
bureaucracy.
Israel as a tech hub, right?
Right.
Because
Oh, I'm
they have
sorry,
now
somebody's
tremendous
in the
amount
chat
of
here.
tech products coming out of Israel.
Are they able to
I think
hear
that's
the
something-
video? Because I can't.
They're not telling me, but all my things are on. All my what do you call it? Speakers are on. So if they
Hale
can-
Odin was asking, and yes, I am.
He said he would do
other
something radical.
Yes, indeed. I think there are factions. Something that you should be aware of are that you're actually made the promise that you want to start what are known as clandestine lodges. This is something where a group will get together and they'll initiate people by not going through the Grand Lodge, I think is what they call it. So in this particular case, this person's not a lawful Mason, right? And so you got stuff like that going on where people maybe say that they're Masons, but they're not really Masons because they weren't made a Mason in a lawful lodge. So there are things like that as far as factions are concerned. Now, beyond that, some people might say that the York or the Scottish Rite could be considered factions because typically the York Rite's more of a Jesus-themed sect, whereas the Scottish Rite's more like an esoteric type sect. So you can almost see it in terms of polarities and teams, I guess, if you want to use those words, but they don't compete, I don't think. Now, factions, of course, suggest that maybe they do compete. Now,
they
that
come together
said,
at the top, though.
That said, I think what should be noted here, we just had a December Friday the 13th. And I think we had an October Friday the 13th. There was perhaps even one before that, not long before. And the reason that the Friday the 13th are so prominent is because of the Knights Templar being rounded up. And notably, Jacques Desmoulins, for whom the Boys Masons group is named after. He was the leader of the Templar Knights at the time, and he was burned at the stake and would not give up the other members. Much like Hiram Abiff, who was accosted by fellow Masons and slain for not revealing the word of Mason. And so this is the whole thing. They're all seeking the word. I'm sorry, I didn't check to see if there's a question.
What do you know about principals of high schools being Shriners? Is that something you know anything about?
Well, as an organized effort, no. But you'll find that they're often in positions of authority. That's why I suggest people check to see if people are wearing rings, if their pastor has a Masonic ring or something like that.
Especially priests check for priests in a Catholic church. If you're Catholic, my family's Catholic, and I went to church on Christmas Eve, and I was like, oh yeah, I should have checked, but I didn't look.
How far above 33 degrees is there? And at that point, is it really not? Well, from what I can gather in my research, the third degree is pretty much your limit before the others came to be. And so I guess what kind of happened was they took what was already a secretive organization and added a few more carrots to the stick. And then they thought, oh, well, we can go ahead and recruit from an already secret organization like this and find more people. that we think might suit our aims, which is kind of the case because, like I said, you have to believe in God to get in there. So think of how many well-meaning folks get in there, right? And then come to find out you're 32nd, 33rds, or, admitted Luciferians and Satanists, things like that. So it's a definite. So can they hear that video?
They could, yeah. I stopped it though because you were. So I'm gonna.
I'm pardoning for
That's okay.
having to repeat it then.
I'm gonna
So
start
did they
it.
get the point though?
Let me start it again at 23 minutes if you don't mind, or let me just start it again at 22:25 because I want to hear what he has to say. So I've got the captions
That's like a
up.
sentence or two.
Theoretically, you're a finance minister. You've just been named finance minister of Brazil. Congratulations. And it's your first week in office. What would you do, hypothetically, what would be your first 2 or 3 steps that you would take to bootstrap some of these sectors, or what would you do?
I would do something radical. I mean, I would carve out the state of Rio to create an Israel inside the country of Brazil, but have it literally marshaled and structured in a way that was apart from the rest of the country. We have to, recognize the fact that the country itself is stagnated largely because
We're
of
recognizing
bureaucracy.
Israel as a tech
hub.
Hub, right?
Right.
Because they have now a tremendous amount of tech projects coming out of Israel.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that Latin America can do. There's no real tech hub in Latin
Is that
America. I mean,
not
the
a
closest
bold
city
statement?
is really Monterey,
Yeah.
and that really.
Yeah, and to talk about the tech hub being of Israel, and I was telling you earlier how a friend of mine thinks that. Now, this same friend of mine doesn't think that blacks are any less intelligent than white people, and I'm going somewhere with this, so bear with me, everybody. Hey, Gina, I'm glad you're here. Bear with me on this. I asked that question because I had somebody tell me that it's well known that blacks are less educated, and I said, or not less educated, they are less educated, less intelligent. And I said, well, we should look at that if that's true. Why? Is it something in the vaccines? Is it something in the water? Because I have a good friend who's black who has 5 children and 3 of them are autistic. 3 of them. So is there something more in the vaccines? Is there something more in the water? Or is it just false? And the answer is it is false. If they're less intelligent, it's because of something that's being done to them. Because all man was created equal as far as, all man was created as man in God's image, all of us. God didn't make dumber guys and smarter guys. But my same friend that doesn't think blacks are dumber than white people thinks the Jews are somehow smarter. And I said, well, don't you think you're catching yourself up in something here? You're saying that the Jewish people are somehow smarter than everybody else, but you're going to tell me it's false that blacks are less intelligent, which I don't believe. I don't believe blacks are less intelligent, but I also don't believe Jews are more intelligent. I think they have more control, and they're working with entities that we aren't working with in as far as this technology. So I wanted to say that. So yeah, he's talking about making us technological hub in Brazil, like he's calling it Israel, and of course it is, because these are the people getting the Pulitzer Prize and doing all this. They're so intelligent. They're the ones that are coming up with all the new technology, because look to the Jews. They're more intelligent. They want us to believe that they're more intelligent, and people are falling for it.
Well, I didn't want to necessarily say it to correct you per se, but the Jews say that they're smart, the Ashkenazim, right? Because of something in particular. You got to remember, Jesus said their father is Satan, right?
Yeah.
So they probably are more intelligent than us. It's just that with that comes the pride. And, so, you can be intelligent, but what I've learned is will alone will beat intelligence in the long run. So they think they're probably going to rule the world and this, that, and the other.
I think if they're more intelligent, it's because they're using other entities to get this technology. You know that. You know that they're not getting technology from just the air. The thin air.
So, well, it is from the air.
I know. I knew I shouldn't have said that, but you know what I'm saying.
No.
Okay, they're not just so smart. They just come up with it without help.
So this picture you have up right here, this is the temple in Sao Paulo, and it is built to scale. Now, what you should also note here is that it is a temple for all nations. And so, this differs from the first and second temples in that the first and second temples were just for the Most High, right? They've basically made this third temple what I would, pardon me for saying it, it's the whore, right? Because if your temple was to one God, now this is a temple to all, anybody. So I'm not trying to sound exclusionary or whatever, but I think your audience understands what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, with the unity of all, which is what the Pope is trying to push as well. That is where you'll see the Antichrist come in. Mm-hmm.
Which I think that the Antichrist will declare himself God in the temple, but we see here that there's already a temple. So I just want to let people know, keep your eyes on this place, because if somebody goes there and makes some big statements, hey, it could be Trump, for all we know, could end up visiting there or something. So you just need to pay attention to it. Look for another question here. But this person says, how far above 33 degrees are there? I got a friend who is in all these upper degrees, and he says that that's it, but that the Illuminati, so to speak, is not. So basically you could be a 33, I guess, and still not be it. But you could also be the Illuminati and not a 33rd. It's just that they use the Masonic organization to recruit from, more or less, is what it is. So
yeah, that makes sense.
The way I understand it. Anyway. Now I wouldn't want to go to that point, and I saw somebody else in the chat post the word Jabalon. That's something they teach in higher.
What is it?
Basically, they say they give a name for God, and I think he posted.
That's the Mason's name for God? Oh, Jabulon.
No. In this particular degree, I think they give it a name.
Oh, they said it's the Mason. It's AJ Blunt said it's the Mason Trinity.
But like I said, they don't name it until I guess that point they want you to start naming it.
Oh, it's a word used in. Yeah, hold on. The rituals of the Royal Archmasonry and.
Oh, okay. There we go.
I'll pull it up. Well, so the reason he's talking about watching this temple is because is it the third temple already and not where we're looking? Everybody thinks it's going to go up in Jerusalem. But here's what I found on Wikipedia of Jabulon. I don't know how to say it. Doesn't matter. Don't correct me.
Oh, Scott Sean posted something that triggered a memory of mine. He's saying there's a lot more than 33 degrees. I seem to recall something about that. They go all the way up to 90.
99.
But it emulates angles. So, because it's all about geometry and stuff like that. Now, I'll admit, I don't. If that's the case.
You dropped out or something. Oh, it's me. It's my
I said
fault.
I said even if that were true, though, I still don't know anybody past the 33rd area. But I've read about that going up to like 90. Yes.
Well, I have a question. Being that it does say in the Bible not to take any other oath, can you tell us about that there is an oath for certain taken in the Masonic temple? There's an oath of death upon revealing its secrets.
Yeah, so the thing is, most of what I would tell you, you're going to be able to find. So I think it is more true in the past than it is now. And so that's the thing, like, I have mixed feelings about talking about it, and that's why I would rather take questions more so than volunteer information, because I don't want to necessarily be a liar either. But it is a concern of mine that But again, I want to also quench the curiosity anybody may have that would make them want to join. Because once you do join, you are in fact taking several oaths. It's a series of oaths. And in fact, you don't just say it once, you say it many, many times, because you got to read, if you're an ancient, free and accepted Mason, you got to do things by memorization.
Right.
So if you're doing that, you're making quite an impression on your mind with repetition. And so that is, how many times are you doing that with the Bible? You know what I mean? So you're forcing yourself to do something in a very dedicated fashion. You maybe wouldn't even do with something you think is more important to you.
I find it interesting that the Mason will say things like binding myself, and which is something
you're
that
binding yourself with spells, with the words. And so the real tragedy in all of this, that you're quite frankly given them permission to destroy your temple, if you were to simply divulge secrets, which it's kind of funny because there's really no secrets. Now, maybe at one time, there are a lot of, the things I've learned that were most profound in my life, aside from my relationship with God, of course, but as far as knowledge and things like that, I didn't have to be a Mason to learn or run across the things that I felt most profound. I felt that it's a trap for souls, and in a large scheme of things, I think they're going to be used as scapegoats, because think of how many people hate them and with no real good reason. And then you got a lot of them that are probably just well-meaning people that are the pillars of their communities.
Of course, I was watching the Age of Deceit. If you watch the Age of Deceit by Face Like the Sun, if you watch all three of them, but it might even be in the first one, and these are great, great, great videos by Gans Shimura. So good. But a guy goes up to a Shriner, and the guy thinks he believes and understands Jesus Christ, but when he quotes scripture to him, he goes, Jesus said that, really? I mean, he's an old man. This guy's been out there trying to do
that
good.
Guy, yeah, but that guy's not representative of everything.
No, he's not. But what I'm saying is, I'm mentioning that there are people that have no idea. There's just people that have no idea. They think they're following good things. They think they understand it, and they're probably doing good things. Like I've had the Masons here gave out free shoes, and I know we accepted them for my girls several years ago. But before I'd ever looked into this, doesn't matter. I'm not saying I still wouldn't have accepted them, right? It's not like I can't cast out demons from shoes. But the point is there are a lot of good people trying to do good things in here, and they don't understand this. It's not like you're just going to walk up. You can't hate Masons, and you can't hate all Jews, and you can't hate all Catholics, right? Is that what you're saying? I thought when you said there's a lot of good people.
What was that last thing you said?
I thought that's what you were kind of saying, because there's going to be people that just are oblivious to some of the negativity of it. They're good people trying to do good things. You said that people hate Masons in general, but you said it was kind of a scapegoat.
Well, it's convenient. Yeah, it's just that it's the boogeyman, right? So it's just easy because everybody just wants to be able to point their finger. You can't point your finger at Satan. You don't know where he's at, right? So people can say, oh, well, it's the Masons. Which, hey, again, let's say that if Satan is Inky, right, and that's who they're really worshiping, then it is entirely possible. Because theoretically speaking, they do construct society, things like that. But it could also alternatively be the Most High, who is also the architect, right?
Yeah.
Who made the lands on the palm of waters, etc. So it's a slippery slope there to start mudslinging them and saying, because if I, as a Mason, can't even tell you which God they serve, then somebody who's not a Mason sure doesn't have the authority or the acumen to say that. Which is kind of interesting. Maybe they don't even know, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why this
ambiguous.
guy. That's why this guy from Age of Deceit was like that. He thought he was a Christ follower, but he also was talking about Lucifer and the light and being raised to that same place, being raised to this, I can't remember the words he used, but like a state of perfection.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I was getting at earlier, they liken themselves to the stone that's trued with the hammer, and you measure its uprightness with the plumb. Just the angle of 90 degrees with the square. The trestle board is where you draw up the plans. And these different implements were actually used to slay Hiram when he refused to give up the word. So they're all used very symbolically. And seeing here, if there's any more questions. Meditations or Kabbalah. Yeah, actually. Well, here's something interesting. The only reason I even got into Masonry is the person that got me into it. I first started talking to him about meditation and stuff like that, and he gave me some recommendations, and I'll admit the meditations he recommended were actually very good. And it was the first time I had actually meditated with a guided meditation and felt some type of energy, so to speak, if you will. So, stuff like that can kind of make you think people have credibility, I guess, because you're feeling something, right? Something tangible. So, of course, I'd already prayed and asked for wisdom, and then here this all happened. But
I'd say that's kind of a be careful what you wish for thing, because when you pray for certain things, sometimes the Lord will show you that by an experience. That's how you'll learn.
Yeah, and it was a slow and unraveling process, and so, but they don't teach you anything specific. In fact, I think the closest thing to it would be the catechisms that they make you learn. Now, mind you, let's say that in some state where they have free and accepted Masons, they'll give you a little book that has the catechism in it. Now, it might be encrypted, but somebody can unencrypt it, and it's meant to study with, right?
Is this the catechism of the Freemasons, or like the catechism of the Catholic Church? Is it their own catechism? Sorry to interrupt.
Catechisms of the Masons.
Okay, thank you.
So the catechism of the Freemasons, if it's a free and accepted, they'll have these little books that have it in there, but it's encrypted. And then there's the ancient free and accepted, which is what the lodge I belong to is. You actually have to memorize everything by rote, which is by memory, and you get a coach, and you have to meet with them regularly and go over this. Then you have to come back to the lodge and return it. Now, here's the thing about rites of passage that it's kind of lost on folks now. There's no, they used to be really rough with you, but nowadays in the snowflake culture that we live in, they're really actually quite mild compared to what they were used to do.
They don't make you ride the goat anymore?
There's no goat at all, actually. That's just, I don't know where
there was
that
a little
even
bicycle thing. I researched it, and it definitely was a part of the Prince Hall Masons, but I don't know about anything else.
Oh, Prince Hall then. So see, that was probably one lodge then that did it. Just got famous somehow. But yeah, well, I'm really sorry you got me off track.
You were talking about the catechism and the encryption and.
So the catechisms are just basically series of phrases.
Oh, you were saying how they used to have these really difficult initiation sort of things. But nowadays they're not.
Okay, so and you have to give these catechisms in front of the lodge, everybody watching and listening to you and stuff. And the rituals themselves used to be a lot more rough. Mind you, that you're actually simulating a death ritual. So,
Right.
not that they were supposed to kill you, but if you really were taking this seriously, like I think I even fasted before mine, stuff like that. Like if you're really taking this seriously, you're going in there with a certain state of mind, so on and so forth. But the peer pressure element also raises like your adrenaline, and you kind of have like an imprint of the ritual, so to speak. So rites, yes, the term hazing somebody used in the chat. That's kind of like that. Somebody asked if I got a Masonic Bible. I did not, because I did not return my 3rd degree catechism. I returned the 1st and the 2nd. I studied the 3rd a little bit, but I did not return it.
Does return it mean to come back and like you test it for it or something like that?
Yeah. Well, I struggled a lot with. You got a time limit, and if it weren't for the time limit, I would have been fine. But you got to only have a year to do it. So when I started, I was in college and working at the same time. And, it was a lot of work to carve out time to drive out to somebody's house and study with them, doing all this, which is the whole idea, is to form that bond and relationship, I suppose.
And I think show loyalty too. I think if you're gonna, I think it makes sense that they wouldn't have you get to do it in your own time. They want to see okay, so like if you made God first, right? You would carve out that time for prayer and carve out that time for fasting for the Lord. You would do these things, and I think it shows that they're trying to make them the thing that you put all your efforts into and take you away from God. That's a thought.
Well, that's true, actually. And they talk about how to divide your day. For instance, 8 hours to rest, 8 hours to vocation, 8 hours to God. There's another 8 hours there. I think it's to maybe community. But anyway, so the catechisms are just part of it. There's the actual ritual itself, and there's a lot of details in that, and that's really the bulk of the stuff that you're not allowed to talk about. So, like, as far as questions are concerned, I'll answer anything, but there's details though about the rituals themselves. Those are the things you're not supposed to really talk about. And the only reason for that is obviously it validates whether or not you've been through the ritual. So that's the whole reason. It's not like it has a magical effect or anything. But and see, here's another thing that there was times in the Bible where certain words were used, and based on if people could say it a certain way or not, they would be slain because it would indicate where they were from or something like that. So you got to realize some of these things are like tests, and a lot of these things are examples of tests from the past. So that's why they're used as examples in the law. I'll read another question here. Oh, but you only get the Masonic Bible if you return your 3rd degree, and it has some apocryphal texts in it. One which is very, very old and predates a lot of the other books, except for maybe Job. Bel and the Dragon is even mentioned in like Sumerian type texts, and I'll admit I haven't read that yet.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I want to keep a note of that in the background of my mind when you said Sumerian text, because of the gold and everything. They came down as supposed gods, but they probably fallen angels, sending gold up to their planet. Anyway, I'm filing that. I want you to talk about the New Galilee real quick before the next question you answer, which there's a couple. But what is the New Galilee, just for people who don't know? And that was the last link that you sent me So you wanted to kind of finalize at least the talk of the second or the third temple, maybe being the Temple of Solomon. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the New Galilee is something I've ran across in my research when I began studying the cicada puzzles. There kept being this phrase that would pop up. It was talking about a new species will emerge. And so it got me thinking about, like, we're talking about genetic experimentation.
Yeah, the third DNA strand, that kind of stuff.
So, if you spend enough time researching the occult, eventually you're going to come across stuff like this. Like Hitler is well known for his eugenicist programs, but fewer probably know about why. Like he basically, the Aryan race thing wasn't just some whim he had. It was kind of founded upon research. Now, albeit he kind of was trying to replace, he was trying to make his people a replacement for maybe this historical root race that he's referring to. But again, we're talking about these root races. It's where they want to try to recreate the original races. But more importantly here, cross to the original stock. And so when you think about like how to, I don't know, maybe like make dogs or something like that. I don't do this with dogs, but you can do it with plants or anything. But people do this with animals, right? It's a husbandry is terms. And so you think about like the Most High, Anu, whatever you want to call it, Yahweh. He's looking at us in this way, right? He's telling us to be fruitful, multiply, blessing and cursing houses and seeds. It's all about procreation and blood, quite literally. So
yeah.
I think that a lot of attention should probably be paid to the sixth epic stuff, because this is basically the secret societies, whomever they are, have been kind of like engaging in this worldwide genetic experiment for a long time. Now, what's really interesting about this, I'm not sure where it is in the article from where you're at now, but it mentions Brazil in here, in this article.
Well, it mentions the light bodies like I talked about that would be able to float, because I was talking about the Orm and them trying to do it on Earth before Jesus comes back and gives us our bodies.
Yeah. Is this not a crazy wiki article?
It's everything. Let me see if I can
it's all over the place.
Brazil.
So there's speculation surrounding that the sixth root race will be in Brazil. So it started to help me understand why I didn't really understand why there was a Temple of Solomon in Brazil. I didn't realize it until now, when I'm starting to see this kind of stuff. And then I hear a guy talking about like creating New Israel and stuff. And starting to think, like, what is going on? I hear they have a really big Masonic influence down there, which I personally think that, Masonic stuff is basically crypto-Judaism. It's Judaism and Kabbalah for the Goyim, the non-Jews. The symbol's even a star, just like their flag, right?
I don't see where it says Brazil, but I'm skimming it so fast that I'm just not sure.
Oh, you're reading the Rosicrucian.
I've jumped back. I came back. But I just was clicking on that for a second. Okay, so this is kind of like the Georgia Guidestones, though, where you're talking about Hitler and all these. What they want is they want to decrease the population to half a billion.
Madame Blavatsky.
Well, yeah, Blavatsky and Susan Bailey and all that stuff is the same, but it's not just them. This would speak to that too. Hitler would speak to that too. So that annihilation, that genocide, is meant for that. It's the same elites. It's the same people at the top. When I mean the same people, I don't mean like it's still Hitler or it's still Blavatsky or it's Anton LaVey. I'm saying it's the same people with the same idea trying to create a mass genocide to bring it down to where they think only the few can inhabit. I mean, who's that? Oh, it doesn't matter. Anyway, they're trying to, like, the UN is behind all of this. We're going to have a one world nation, one new world order, and we're going to unite. But it means that we have to take what is a 7 billion person population down to 500 million. How many people is that? I mean, it's a huge amount of people. And if it's in their certain amount of time, there are going to be like hundreds of thousands killed a day.
Yes. Hey, I wanted to mention something before you scroll down too much further. If you go up just a tad bit.
I just went up to the top again.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you got the lag when you're watching.
There. Sorry, I have to keep clicking it because I don't notice when it goes off live. So this, it does talk about the Aryan stuff under usage in Western teachings. It talks about it being a 7th sub-race evolving from this 6th sub-race. How the United States is a melting pot. So remember how they're crossing the races. Whenever you were, after several generations, if you were trying to get a certain trait, you would cross it back with the original. After 6 or 7 generations, you would cross it with the original to try and really, I don't know what the proper biology term is.
Pull out that genetic
to express that gene. So I think whatever they're looking for, they're trying to achieve right now. And I think that the stuff we're seeing in Brazil right now is kind of a, I don't know, almost like an omen, I guess, what's to come.
So there was a question that how does anyone contact you if they have more questions later?
Oh, they can just join your Discord, of course.
Well, I did mention that, but they said they don't have Discord.
Well, I'm sorry. You just have to come and join us at the chats.
Yeah, the Discord's is really easy.
Discord's free.
Yeah, it is.
I would highly recommend it. But yeah, I mean, you can just comment on her videos or join us on the live streams. Word will get around. I'll answer your questions.
Certainly.
But I do want to share the Secret Teachings of All Ages.
Yes, with what's his name again?
So, mainly P. Hall.
Yeah.
Because my concern is that I really don't want people to be tempted to join. And the thing is, this gentleman, he was conferred the 32nd degree, honorary degree, and never actually had joined the Masons. So just from the scope of all of his knowledge and research, basically they were saying he had access to everything that anybody that was that degree would have anyway. So they just basically said, hey, this guy's earned his degree. But in fact, probably putting far more work into it than anybody else does. Most Masons today are jokes compared to what they were when we first started, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, like you said, it's a little bit, whatever.
Somebody asked why you would join. Most people join for money, fame, prestige. The idiots that put the jewelry on their car because they want everybody to know, or wear the rings, any of that stuff. If you want somebody to know, I'm ashamed of it, honestly. It's not something you should be proud of. Because if you're a Christian, you should be proud of it.
What was it, Shaq? He was showing off his ring.
Matthew tells you not to take oaths. And,
yep.
So you'd have, what if one day you uh, it does say that your oath exempts you if you have to duty to your God, your country, yourself, etc. There are some exceptions, but you're not going to. You're going to sit there and weigh all those exceptions in the heat of a moment.
So you're thinking about like the rings and everything, and then Shaq has been like
yeah, like
hugely
that right
showing
there is obnoxious, and he is a tool.
Yeah.
That was a good pun actually, because the square and compass and stuff, those are all tools.
He also goes totally blank and like glitches for 45 seconds or something on a live what do you call it, ESPN show. Did you ever see that? NPC?
No, but I've seen Al Roker do that.
Same thing. Yeah. It's like for 45 seconds too. It's pretty amazing.
Somebody's asking about the drawings in the back of the Masonic Bible. I don't know what the drawings are because I don't have the Bible. I've seen them a few times, the Bibles, but I've not seen the drawings. So you can probably find them online. Do a search maybe.
Okay, I'm going to show this because there might be a few people who haven't seen it. But this is somebody who's proudly professing his Freemason roots or whatever, and he just freezes up. Let's see if this is the one. This might not be the one. Of course, who knows, right? I can find it on a different one. That's not it. But but what happens is you got these, Al Roker did it, but you've got these people that they just totally freeze up, and you're like, there's lots of them. There's so many of them. But in case anyone hasn't seen this, I've got it now. In case anyone hasn't seen it, I'm going to show it because it's amazing. He doesn't even blink. And this is a guy that's bragging about his, of course, ads. I have to use Google Chrome or else my streamer won't see Brave, won't see Dissenter, so I have to use
Well,
this
as we're waiting on that, I'll just comment that the Secret Teachings of All Ages there, I would recommend trying to get it in like the PDF version so that you can do a Control F search. And it's not really a book that you want to read front to back. It's more of a reference. Now, mind you, I would find myself just reading on for hours on. There he goes, just staring.
Not blinking. There's
Wow.
also not blinking.
Yeah, well, he's even catching flies, man.
They tried to like get the attention on something else, but he just wouldn't like wake up. They go over to him, I guess, seeing, I don't know if it comes back up or something, but he's still.
That's Charles Barkley, right?
Yeah, they're. What's happening? Oh.
Now, I've never been able to find the clip because it was never, like, I watched it as it was happening. I had a boss at the time who was really into sports. He was constantly watching ESPN. I know this is TNT, so it's not quite the same thing. But one thing I would note is that when I was watching this ESPN episode once, they were talking about this basketball match where this guy kept scoring 6, 6, 6, so on and so forth. And the host said something to this guy that came on said something to the host. He's like, well, you know all about that, right? And the guy didn't act like it. He was too humorous about it. And he just kind of played it off. But it does make you wonder sometimes. Like, I think if you want to know what secret societies are, like, people want to hate on the Masons and stuff, but it's these television folks, these celebrities.
Of course.
Those are the folks. That's the Illuminati.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the Masons. Now, they might be a Mason incidentally, but what Masonry really is a couple of different things. It's a bit of an amalgam. Unfortunately, it's just what we have left as a choice today for the mystery schools. So if somebody is a student of something like that, they're going to be gravitating toward it because there's not a lot out there. And even the Masons themselves are falling apart because there's not a lot of young people. Same with church. There's a great falling away in general, spirituality. But this Satanism, on the other hand, is growing in ranks. Like I pointed out to you the other day, in the Navy, they're now doing satanic services in the Navy.
Right.
And, you know, Hollywood's rampant with them. That's why I like, you know, people like to give Kanye West a hard time. But, hey, he doesn't have to even talk about Jesus. But
Well, it's making
whatever.
him money. If it's making him
Yeah, I
money,
mean,
he's
it's
gonna do
all
it.
still weird, but
He's making him a lot of money. I mean, he's making a ton of money off of it. And that's another thing is like, I was just talking to another friend tonight, glory to God, because I appreciate people who say, oh, hey, I see what's going on and I'm with you. It's all that money that he's making. It's kind of like when Jesus threw the Jews out of the temple, or he threw over the table. It wasn't because they were selling. It was because they weren't selling for what they were supposed to be selling. They were supposed to be selling something that was difficult for them to sacrifice, that they didn't want to get rid of. It wasn't because they were selling other things to try to make a dime extra in his father's house. And that's what Kanye's doing. He's trying to make extra.
well, it's more than that, actually. May I
Yeah,
make a point?
of course.
It was the money changers, okay? So you couldn't just come in there and throw any old coin around. No, mine. You needed a shekel of the highest quality and purity, gold and silver, mind you. So you had to change your money first before you could even buy the dove to sacrifice and atone for your sins, right? So, you know, this is a thing that I think is lost on most people, because it was lost on me until very recently. And the only reason I really understood it was because you'll see the same thing happening with the United States and how oil is bought and sold. You see, we have the petrodollar today. And in order to buy oil, you must first change your currency into US dollars, just like the Jews at that time made people do in the temple. So I think that the buying and selling of oil, if you will, is quite, I don't know, to me that's very provocative, because the money changers were the problem then, and that's exactly what the problem is now, the money changers. Of course, that's, we're going to be spelling big problems now for the US dollar as the petrodollar is losing strength. Because one thing that Trump's sanctions and tariffs have done is it's encouraged other nations to develop an alternative to the SWIFT system. So the sanctions are done on countries through the SWIFT system. And so if everybody has to use United States dollars and they have to use it through the SWIFT system, then you can apply economic sanctions, right? Well, if you sanction everybody, and you make it basically to the point they can't even do business, or they're going to do business with somebody. So they developed an alternative. So now we got Russia and China and other countries jumping on these alternatives that they've created.
Well,
Of course, then the Saudi oil fields got bombed, so...
I realized recently that this whole thing with China, one of the biggest issues is that people think, well, communism is working in China, if they're thinking that. It could have been a thought I've had, and I'll say this for a reason, because it is working in China, but it's because we were buying from them. We're buying so much stuff from them that communism has worked there, but not Venezuela, right? We're not buying a bunch of products from Venezuela. And so when they went into communism, it killed them. But, you know, oddly, not only did China grow from their communism because we're buying products from them, but they've superseded us because of all the information we've given to them and sold them. I want to say thank you to Gina and thank you to Light of Jesus for the super chats. God bless you. I greatly appreciate that more than you even know. I want you to know that that is a big deal. I know that YouTube takes a chunk of it, but it's still part of how we make our money too. So God bless you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, I'll get back on track here with this temple stuff. So, the money changers were the problem in the temple at the time, and that's what he ran out. And so we'll see that, who's the money changers today, then, right? So we see the sheiks and the politicians and so on and so forth. That's who Jesus would be running out of the temple today. So just put that into perspective.
Yeah.
But this temple right here, however, we might have to run some folks out of that.
Maybe.
If you can only imagine can you even imagine what they're selling in that place? Like, it's probably got a gift shop in it.
Oh, good point. Really good point,
right?
Actually.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever read Dune.
Yeah, long time ago. And I've seen the old movie and the newer movie.
Oh, Aaron. I love that you've read it. So in the book, I think it's book 2 or 3, it's when religion of Moabit's in decline, and people are gathering in the streets, selling talismans, and claiming that this was the last cup that Moab drank from. Just all this ridiculous crap. So it just turns into like this. I don't know. You see it with the saints a lot, right? Like, they're always trying to make money off the saints of this or the saints of that, and this day is dedicated to them. They're always trying to make money off the religion somehow, and it kind of reminded me of a story in June.
Yeah.
Where that happened. No, I did. And that's what happens with Christmas, which is why I'm sorry again if I offend anybody, but the fact that it's a pagan holiday, sure. But then if you're going to practice a pagan holiday, practice, don't be lukewarm, be hot or cold, go all out, get a real tree. don't get a fake tree, get a real one.
Yeah, this will be the last year for our tree. In fact, I took it down today. I took it down right away. I was like, okay, it's over. Christmas is over. Tree down. Take it down. Done.
And I know a lot of folks do it for the kids, but the thing is, are we really doing the kids a favor though? So, I don't know. I got mixed feelings about it. Like, I'll give somebody like socks and shoes and stuff like that. Maybe it's winter.
Well, here's the cool thing
Christmas, because it's Nimrod's birthday.
Well, they can't. So, okay. Real quick, will you answer one more time what you said about why would anyone become a Mason? Because somebody's got that question again. And then I want to say, before you answer that real quick, I only gave my kids a few presents. And the great thing was I got to watch them have like 3 presents and play with them. Whereas my mom gave them a ton of presents. And I got to watch them not care about each present as they just ripped through to the next one. Just rip through to the next one, rip through the next one. I was like, yep, let's just have 3 presents, where you can sit there and enjoy it in the moment and not rip through the next one. If you're gonna do that, anyway, I wanted to point that out. But my kids have been good about the changes that we've made. Like, a good thing, Linda, too, that you took your tree down last night. But the changes that we've made with Halloween and stuff, they've accepted it well. So it's good. It's good how we're doing it, a little bit at a time. You don't have to pull the Band-Aid all at once, right? But anyway, answer the question about why anyone would want to become a Freemason.
Well, so again, a lot of folks, I think, do it for, I don't know, I think that they want to use it as a stepping stone in a career. Maybe they want to try and benefit themselves somehow. That's kind of how I think of it. A lot of people probably use it. Now, the reason I got involved personally was just for wisdom. I would have done it, even if I had never met anybody else. It's probably something I still would have been interested in, just because I wanted to know truth. I
wanted to know more about reality, you know, because I didn't feel like I was really getting it at home or from TV or even from the church down the road. Which, if your pastor is a Mason, then, well, you really got a lot of questions in your head. Not that this was the case here. I'm just saying, my reason was for wisdom, because I felt that that's where I was being led. But I feel that most people didn't work. Also because their family members maybe were Masons. So if you think about it, it's like, families produce lawyers, doctors produce doctors, Masonic families produce Masonic families, military families produce military families, etc. So you see what I mean? So it's kind of like a cultural thing, really, at that point. Now, that said, there wasn't really anybody else.
Well, you said something about the money and the bling and stuff like that, too.
Well, I mean, if you get out of it, but now if you go into it and you're wanting to get famous, you're probably going to get famous because you're going to meet the others in it that are in it for that reason. But those idiots aren't ever going to get much out of it. They're just going to get the association, the fraternal aspects of it. So you're going to get that out of a college fraternity, no different, Harvard, Yale, Skull and Bones kind of crap. That's why a lot of people probably join, for that perk aspect of it. But the intrinsic rewards, knowledge, religion, I'd say that infrequently that's somebody's motivation to join. Right? Does that answer the question?
I think so. Well, yeah, you said something about like the money and you said something about cars, like they put stuff like bling on their cars or something.
Oh, pardon me. I just kind of glossed over that. Yes, once you become a third degree, you're then permitted to put what they call jewels on your vehicle.
Oh my!
And so that's this various emblems, like the square and compass. You're allowed to wear the rings, so on and so forth. Now, until then, you're not supposed to do that. And I'll have to say, I wouldn't know if there is some benefit because I don't do it. But I don't know. I think that if you are a fan of the Masons, you shouldn't do it, because if you were to get in trouble, you kind of besmirch the name of the lodge, right? And then if you don't think it's a good thing, well, you shouldn't do it anyway, right? So I just don't think it's a good idea either way, because if you take it seriously, it's supposed to be a secretive thing anyhow. And there are ways to test people without knowing it. They don't need a ring. Doesn't say anything. You can get a ring off eBay.
Sure.
So if you meet somebody that claims that they're one, you can test them. You can find out really fast if they're.
That was one of the things about the Prince Hall Masons, according to what I read, a book from an ex-Prince Hall Mason. Again, seems to be the best information I can get is from an ex-Prince Hall Mason, but he said that they'd ask you, they had a belief that from the Garden of Eden, they split to the Caucasians in the Caucasus Mountains and the Africans in Africa, and that it was Cain's line that went to the Caucasus Mountains, and then it was Abel's line that stayed in Africa. I'm not talking about whether this is true or not. All I'm saying is this is what the Prince Hall Masons went off of. And so when they had to cross the sands to the Caucasus Mountains, they were too hot. So Abel's bloodline helped them to cross the sands. So in the Prince Hall Masons, believing this story, they'd ask you, how did you get here, by camel or by foot? They had to say by camel. It's almost like they were saying they were connected somehow to the Caucasus, because it was the Caucasus that were forced to the mountains. But it was the black. This is how they get them. This is how they especially because they get the black secret society stuff starts with the the fraternities and sororities. So they get them by believing in this Greek mentality when they're certainly never been Greek, and the Greek took them over completely. And then you say, well, how did you get here? If you're going to join the Prince Hall Masons, you had to say by camel, because you must have been the ones that had to cross by foot, and your skin is black, and you're talking about the Caucasus blood of Cain. Anyway, very, very upside down and backwards, like it's meant to be.
That's actually really interesting. I hadn't heard of that one before.
I did a whole video on it. Yeah, I did a video on that. Yeah, the Prince Hall Masons. And I have the book, and it's hard to get this information, even more so than anything. You think some of this stuff is hard, getting information on the Boule and the Prince Hall Masons and who's in control there in the black community is the hardest stuff. I'm like, either it's the most secretive or it's the least cared about. And I said, I think it's both. I think it's the least cared about and the least known. I can't get black people on the right to talk to me about it. Finally got one person to mention, I think we don't talk about it, because I asked him, why is nobody on the right talking about this on the black community? He goes, well, I think nobody knows. But I've asked it so blatantly and bluntly to black people on the right. I'm talking influencers. Like, I think her name was, God, I don't want to get it wrong, but Star Parker. Her name was Star Parker. I met her in person, huge Republican, right-wing black influencer for years, since the late 1990s. And I said, what about the Boule and the gentrification that they're causing? And she goes, I hate the word gentrification. Goes on for 20 minutes how she hates the word gentrification. Stop using that word. Never speaks of the Boule. I ask another Bryson Gray, what about the Boule? Answers every other question but that one. So they're purposely ignoring what that is. So you look into this guy. I have a guy that was, I don't have a guy, but I have a resource that was a Black Panther when they first started, not when they were hijacked. When they first started, I've got him as a resource, and then an ex-Prince Hall Mason. Other than that, it's pretty hard to find any information. There's a few pastors out there that will talk about it, but really difficult.
So, a couple people have mentioned some things in chat. Read Romans 10:9-14. It's talking about Knights of Columbus, how her father was duped, taking a Jesuit oath, wearing the apron, sword, tux, etc. Yeah, so the Knights of Columbus in particular, that's one I'm vaguely familiar with because they are in this area that I live in, and actually learned about one of those backroom deals where Good Old Boys Club kind of does like a eminent domain deal, took some land, done some stuff like that. And I learned about some things that happened around here, and it really upset me. But anyway, there was a Knights of Columbus thing involved in that. And so because of that, you couldn't, it was an open and shut thing. Nothing was going to get done about it. So, for the people that are involved, and again, why would somebody join? Well, some people want to join because maybe they want in on stuff like that. When these deals go down, it's like, well, I want my piece of the pie, And so if they're in a political office or something like that, and they know about something like this going on, they can be in on it. So that could be one reason. And I'm sorry to hear about the duping of him. From what I can gather, the Jesuit oath is by far a little more, I don't know.
It's disturbing. It's really disturbing. I've read through it before.
You should just smack me in the face.
Yeah.
But I don't know much about the Knights of Columbus as far as the rituals and what their beliefs are. I just know that there are some members that were around here at one time, and they done some stuff that they shouldn't have been proud of. Farewell, Gina. Hope you have a good dinner. My
kids are getting to, sorry to interrupt, but my kids are getting to the point of inconsolable with being by themselves and not
They're
fighting.
disorderly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So finish your thought if you wouldn't mind, and then I'll have to close us in prayer if you would not be so.
Well, I
bothered.
just wanted to kind of reiterate that, I know I sound like a broken record talking about the parable of the fig all the time, but I just want folks to remember that, the parables are really the most important things to always come back to. I mean, yes, salvation, but you got to really learn these parables because that's how you feed the sheep. When you're talking to somebody, the first thing to do is learn the parable of the fig tree, in my opinion, because it's one that hasn't happened yet. It's one of the parables that's about the future. And it's an opportunity to really help people see like what could be happening right before their eyes. Now, I don't know if the parable of the fig is referring to Israel as Israel, or if it could be like, are we seeing another proverbial fig growing in Brazil? That'll be the real question here. I guess we'll see really fast. But it's just food for thought, I just really wanted to share it with people because, as you could see, it's hard to ignore when you start to recognize so many parallels. But also come to mind the parable of the wheat and the tares. That one also discusses the genetics being altered, being the tares being sown among the wheat. And then there's another in Daniel when it talks about the tower and the head of gold, breast of silver, and then the brass, and then the iron, and then the feet of clay. And it talks about how this the iron and clay will not mix, right? Miry clay. But it also talks about in that last verse how they will try to mingle with the seed of man. So again, that's that Daniel prophecy talks about the end days kingdom. So I just wanted to reemphasize the parable of the wheat and the tares and Daniel and parable of the fig and how all this stuff converge. That's my last thought.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop this horrendous video and put a nice image up. Well, nice. The image I made. Nice. It's nicer than the window that I had up. Oh, I'm going to say a quick prayer because my kids are losing their minds, but I will pray for them too. So, Lord in heaven, thank you for this community that has come together in this time. I pray that we continue to ask questions of each other and learn more and can continue to feel comfortable asking these questions. It was a great Q&A. I am so grateful to people that helped this community. Thank you, Linda Pearson. I'm so grateful to this community, like Gina and Light of Jesus, but everybody, it doesn't matter. It's not about money. It's about sharing, watching, being a part of it, partaking, commenting. Just being a part of it matters to us as content creators or as people here being interviewed. It matters to us that people are interested and want to ask questions. And I pray that we continue to ask questions, want to know more truth, to grow in truth, discernment, and wisdom from you, Almighty Jesus, alone, and not from any other secret sect or secret society, and that we can come out here and be able to warn against those things because we love Jesus first. And we thank you, Lord, to have a community of people that want to keep the remnant protected as well as spread your good news to others, and always checking ourselves and loving you first, Jesus. We pray in your holy and mighty name, and I pray over my children who are having a hard time at getting along. I pray that they would learn to get along together, and also being in a difficult time of season, not knowing what to do with the holidays. We just cancel anything that's demonic out of these holidays in our lives. That even if we practice to some degree, that anything that could have been invited into our lives that's demonic or not from you, Lord Jesus, we cast it out in the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach of Nazareth, and we recover from it, and you'll teach us what to do next time. We pray in your mighty name. Amen. Thank you, everybody. Amen. Thank you. So because I'm having a meltdown over here, I'm just going to go ahead and cut out now. And I appreciate you, NPC, so much for answering those questions. bringing new information. And as much as you're able to, I'm happy to have you on here again and again and again.
Yeah, of course. And sorry, I didn't provide my email to those, and I'd be happy to answer questions in the future.
I provided my email, and I can pass those things on to you. So if you can't get Discord, you guys have my email. I can pass it on easy enough, and we'll make it work. So there you go. All's well and that ends well.
You've been listening to Aaron Moffat. Farewell and good night.
And NPC 3.14. God
Satellite
bless.
folks.
All right, good night. I'm out. Peace.